Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our deep dive on our Tuesday night transformation night. I'm Tracy with Cami and Heather, and we're so glad you're here. We're going to go through a deep dive on inflammation. And we are talking about our amazing LifeWave X39 and the product line that expands beyond that particular patch. And we always say that health is happiness. So we're always hoping to help people on their journey to live a healthier and a happier life. But a lot of us in our life will experience inflammation, even if we're super healthy, because it could be a bee sting and falling into a bee's nest, which I did recently while mushroom hunting with my husband. And it's not fun. And we're going to talk about a new tool because inflammation can mean different things. It can be heat, redness, fever, fatigue. It can be chronic. It can be from an injury. It could be even a mouth sore. I didn't even really think of muscles. There's aches, there's pain, right? Asthma. It goes on and on. Insomnia. Did you know that's a form of inflammation? I didn't know that. Anyway, this company keeps teaching me so much. But before we go too far, just want to give you our standard disclaimer that we're not medical professionals. We're not here to diagnose or treat. We always want you working with your professionals, mainly to monitor your biomarkers because things tend to start changing. Maybe you won't need as much of your prescription, and maybe you'll be like my mom. She just last week got off of her high blood pressure meds at age 80. Not many 80-year-olds get to do that, but you do if you use the patches in time. But anyway, our information tonight, purely informational. And we encourage you to visit our website, harmonypatching.com. It has an abundance of resources, and you can learn more on there and watch a few great videos. But causes of inflammation are many. It can be as simple and innocent as just a poor diet, eating too many fast food, processed foods, chronic stress, a lack of sleep. I've been there, especially when you go through menopause. I think a lot of us get inflammation from that phase of life. Ugh. Anyway, toxins, infections, the gut, that's a really big one. And a lot of us don't even think about that as being inflammation. I used to think inflammation was swelling, and if you saw it, that was what it was, but it can be invisible. But just sitting on the couch too much, not getting movement in our body can cause that. There are chronic diseases, there are autoimmune conditions, oxidative stress, and then there's just emotional suppression, not dealing with what you might be dealt, and maybe it's past trauma. But the good news is we can change a lot of that. But there are foods that can trigger that inflammation. The worst one being refined sugars. And I can say I am used to be a sugar addict, and it was kind of a joke. Everybody, like, for a gift, they all brought me cookies and candy. When I had my kids, they brought me Girl Scout cookies by the truckloads, and they weren't doing me any great favors because it caused a lot of my health issues that I'm now correcting with these patches, thankfully. But inflammation can come from many different things, and sometimes it's just tired body, and you have low mitochondrial function. And if you're new to this, that's a big scientific word that just means the energy center of your cells. And the lower the energy center, the lower the cell level, and the more problems you're going to have, more rapidly you're going to age, and the slower you're going to recover. And cells that are just imperfect. But this inflammation can also come in the form of toxicity where things are building up in the cells and damage occurs and the cell can't repair. And then we start living in survival mode and we're just happy to get through that day and put the end of that, get us into bed, let us get to sleep and do it all over again. But we're here with good news. You don't have to just keep that awful cycle and we can help get off of that path. But toxins, they are stored in our tissues. And largely, what we consider to be fat is often not really fat. The way the body's designed, a fat molecule, a little bubble, is protecting organs by in housing toxins. So when you get the toxins out of your body, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how we do that, we start popping those fat bubbles, and then, gee, this middle stuff, the tire around the middle starts to go flat and go away. But it's not about just, cosmetic appearances. It's about the liver, it's about the kidney and the brain, because those toxins get stored there if we are not equipped to get them out of the body, and more damage starts to occur. So, inflammation has a role in the body. It's not all bad because it is drawing in the stem cells, the repair cells of the body. And it's like a little red flag waving, help, help, we have a problem over here, get here and fix it. But too much of that inflammation can be very detrimental to those repair cells that are rushing in to do the fix it work, and they get dissolved. So the more inflammation you have, the slower the healing, or maybe you have way too much inflammation and you're not going to get healing and you're going to be stuck in that condition. And that's what contributes to autoimmune diseases. And those are numerous. So rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and Lyme and MS, and the list goes on and on. There are many of them, and there are younger and younger people in our country getting these now. And a lot of it has to do with the things that I told you, how you get these conditions, right? Food, a lack of sleep, poor diet, too much stress, on and on and on, right? So questions to ask, are we addressing it correctly? When we go to our doctor, most of us are going to be given a prescription because that's what they're taught in medical school to treat that. And that's not always the right way. In fact, it's usually the wrong way because you're putting a foreign chemical in the body, and the body wasn't designed for that. And now we create a byproduct, a side effect, right? Now we have to deal with that one. But when we are looking at the root cause and we are addressing this at the cellular level, like we are with these patches, it gets addressed at the root cause, and it goes, it can be repaired, regenerated, and become no longer so problematic. But you might need to look at other causes, and maybe skin breakout is your inflammation marker. Those can be addressed. But I wanted to show you a picture of a healthy master cell. And that's the picture on the left. This is what creates that beautiful baby in utero, and our body starts out with one of that cell. That cell divides many, many, many times. It takes 9 months to create that baby from one cell at a time, redividing, right? But when we're older and we aren't eating well, we aren't exercising, we don't get enough sleep, those beautiful master cells start to break down. And that mitochondria I mentioned to you isn't working. And it doesn't look so pretty as the mitochondria in the center of that pretty cell, right? It's all fragmenting. That becomes like a zombie cell, a non-functioning cell, or maybe it's a naughty cell, like what Michael was talking about earlier in our last segment, that horrible, dreaded C word. But this is how inflammation affects the human body, and this is why it's so critically important you address it at the root cause and not through brown bottles written on prescription pads. Because you're talking kidney, lungs, skin, thyroid. Thyroid was one of my many conditions because of my toxic load in my body. And I'd been on levothyroxine for my thyroid for 15 years. And 4.5 months after wearing these patches, when all of my menopause stuff returned that these patches had taken away, the hot flashes, the insomnia, the crying, the anxiety, the hair loss, everything came back that the patches had taken away. And I went to my medical doctor and I was certain these patches stopped working for me. And he laughed at me, and he knew about these. He was using them himself. And he said, "No, I'm pretty sure your thyroid regenerated. And I think you're over medicated." And I didn't even think that was possible. I never heard of anything on the body regenerating. And that was a game-changing epiphany for me. And so moving on, brain. I had a lot of problems there. I had this anxiety thing going, right? The liver, fatty liver disease. Do you know we have 12-year-olds in our country now dealing with fatty liver disease because of their diet? That is not good. That is going to shorten their life and give them a host of crises to manage. Muscle, cardiovascular, the GI tract, that's a huge one. Celiac, Crohn's disease, GERD. The best news is we have a system that can help regenerate that gut and pull the inflammation and toxins out. Bones, joint pain, osteoporosis. There's so many different things that inflammation is doing to the body that we can address. Because that inflammation left untended day in and day out, it continues to infiltrate the good cells and turns those beautiful master cells into those terrible, ugly looking things that let the body go haywire. And that's when things like, the cancers, the diabetes, the neurological diseases, the loss of words, um, all of these things, pulmonary, arthritis, these things set in, and it's devastating and it's life threatening and shortening. And it's not the way you should want to go out of this world. I'll just tell you that. But the goal of this company at LifeWave is enabling people to find ease, because when you have a crisis in your body, that's dis-ease, right? Finding ease is helping the body, the mind, and the soul. Not to mention the loved ones around you. As I talked to a lady today whose mom had a stroke, and she's right now planning her mom's funeral. And that is very sad. And I'm so thankful that my mom has had such life-changing turnarounds with these patches. Instead, with my mom, I'm planning and helping her with her trip to Puerto Vallarta with us on Sunday to celebrate my 60th birthday. She used to go every year until she fell into this trap of the disease world and the prescription world and the pain. And she's lived on a couch for way too long until these patches. And now she's coming on this trip. What's that worth? So, I want to talk to you about a game changer for inflammation, and it's called this very weird words. It's pronounced bizarrely, Aeon. The A is silent. So, what this is doing is it's raising a peptide in your liver, and it's supporting a healthy inflammatory response. It is reducing stress in the body. It's doing this with no chemicals, no stimulants. And this is your own peptide in your own liver that does this. And you had a lot of this when you were young, but just like those repair cells, we lose them, right? And it also promotes relaxation. They coin this the happy patch because it's working in so many different ways. So I just wanted to show you a few pictures of what does that look like. Um, After 12 hours of stubbing toes, look at how much less bruising. This poor guy, I can relate to this guy. He used X39 and Aeon after getting in a bee's nest, and look at the results. That's 20 minutes. Get out. Craziness. Look at the bruising on the back of that leg and how quickly that went away. That's pulling out inflammation. And this anti-inflammatory, they did heat mapping, um, recording, and they realized that the body temperature and the inflammation in the body went down in as little as 5 minutes. So that upper left image is the before of somebody's back, where you see orange and red, that's heat, that's pain. And that right now is eating all of those repair cells in that area. As soon as they put this anti-inflammatory patch on the body, the back of the neck, or put it where you have your crisis point. I would, on this person, put it right on the bumpy knob at the back of the neck. That's called the C7. It'll work there first. Wherever you have your crisis, put this patch there. Patch the spot with a lot. But look at 5 minutes later, after, that is a changed life. And the stomach, look at all that heat and inflammation in the digestive tract and how quickly that changes. But we talked about the bulging disc and the spinal cord degeneration that regenerates. And Aeon is a big part of why that happened. Curvature of the spine, 4 weeks, X39, Aeon, and LifeWave, really. This is overnight results. This fellow here, his daughter was a marathon runner. She had regenerated her knees, bone on bone, and got to cancel the surgery. And her dad had a cognitive decline condition that starts with a P. He had a lot of shaking in his body and problems, and a lot of that's based on heavy metals in the brain. And his body forgot how to get rid of these fluids and toxins in his feet. This was overnight. This lady has high cortisol from inflammation in her body. That cortisol gave deposits on the top of her eyelids. And she had quite a bit of change, and she was very encouraged, and she's seeing a reduction. And this is our friend Jan, and she had a condition where the fluids in her feet didn't circulate back up. and that Aeon was instrumental in helping to change that. She has beautiful, normal legs now. I'm here to tell you. She was just with us dancing, having a great life, and not having the pain she used to have with those old, giant, swollen feet and legs. But what we're talking about with this company is utilizing light and putting light into the body to make change. So X39 plays a role in that repair by restoring balance, improving circadian rhythm, and a whole lot more. But Aeon is working on the parasympathetic nervous system to restore balance and reduce inflammation. But we've got a couple other patches here that can be used too to accelerate. So I just want to point out the two here, X39 and Aeon, we call them the dynamic duo. When you get started, everybody starts with these. We don't care your condition or your age. You are going to be using those two because you got to have them work in tandem. Those repair cells will thrive if we get rid of the inflammation. If we have a toxic buildup problem, like the guy there with the cognition issue and the big swollen feet, that glutathione helps open up a detox pathway, and Alavita is working on reducing oxidative stress. So we just have a few other tools up our sleeve, but this Aeon is the game changer. Again, the happy patch, autonomic nervous system, and they've clinically tested it to reduce stress in the body, clinically tested for reduction of inflammation, calming, and it puts your body into a rest and digest mode. And when I was in anxiety during my menopause, I was living in fight or flight. My brain was never turning off. I never got to rest. And when I started using this, man, I started sleeping and dreaming and it's just so beautiful. Again, no chemicals. But if you're dealing with pain because of inflammation, these are the four we recommend: X39, Aeon, Alavita. The reason we're recommending that, it was originally developed for pretty hair and skin, more for, cosmetic reasons, but they started realizing all these people that were getting pretty skin were getting pretty joints and the pain was going away. And then they started realizing, whoa, they're regrowing ligaments and tendons and powerful. It's also bringing back melatonin for that deep sleep, working on the brain. LifeWave is that pain blocker, and it's at this source. So again, this is one of those patches where you have the pain. It's a two-patch system. You're going to put the tan patch where you have your worst pain. You're going to put the white patch about 2 inches away in the direction of where that pain is traveling. If it's traveling down, say down your sciatica, then you're going to put that patch down below and think of that tan patch as the center of the clock. White is going to go at noon, 3, 6, or 9 on average. And you need to be well hydrated. This is working on polarity in the body, which is an electrical response. Electricity requires water. So if you don't have water in your body and you're dehydrated, you're not going to get the great result. So please drink some water. And this is how your body can really have a game-changing experience in under a minute. And when we put this on Eric, and he had spinal fusion surgery, and 6 months later, he was still living in this kind of raging pain. And we put that on him. He just couldn't get over it. Started running up and down the hallways trying to recreate the pain, and he couldn't. But this is what I'm talking about, the tan and the white. And you're going to play around, and everybody's different. We've got some fantastic resources on our website to help you learn how to place LifeWave. It's the only tricky patch of the bunch because you're chasing nerve pain communication, and that's different for everybody. So go on harmonypatching.com and you'll see some diagrams. We have some videos, and be brave, try it out. And it's a game changer. So this is what it looks like. And we've got different methods. If it's a migraine, that's how you're going to use it. If it's back, if you're using that clock method, like I talked about, great resources on that website. So when you're bone on bone, X39 and Aeon are going to do beautiful things to reduce that pain, but they're not necessarily going to help regenerate the soft tissues that make you no longer bone on bone. For my mom, it was 90 days. A combination took away the pain, but it wasn't until about 6 months when they did the new MRI, they realized that the soft tissues were back, the ligament, the tendon, and her cartilage was actually regenerating. They could see it happening. They got to cancel that surgery. What is that worth? So again, when you use that X39, you're bringing back those repair cells that are for repair, regeneration, and prevention. Glutathione, this is a big, big gun. We would never, ever start anybody on glutathione the first month. Michael and I arm wrestled because he wanted this patch so badly, because when you have that big C, you always have low glutathione. And when we can open up the pathways that now let the toxins out of the body, look out, the floodgates come out. So we like you to start on raising your own glutathione with X39. It will bring yours own up about 30%, which is gradual. We tend to not feel it. But when we go and bring the big gun in, you can occasionally feel like you might be getting the flu. You're not going to die from this. And it's far more important to get this stuff out of the body, because look at this chart. All of the conditions that are attributable to having a low glutathione. This is a peptide that lives in your liver. And most doctors sadly never even get educated on what this is. But I had that low glutathione because I had infertility issues. I had hypothyroidism. I had acne. All of those things are a sign of low glutathione. So when we bring yours up, good things start happening. We always recommend everybody include this master cell repair, holy grail of health, X39. It's just doing so much. That copper peptide that Cami mentioned is a fountain of youth trigger. The master cells elevate and they get pretty again. They actually go and convert from that ugly, weird, distorted cell, and they can go back to what they were originally, because that's the blueprint of the body that one cell created in utero, right, with that baby. So it's just doing a lot. It helps raise GABA, which helps with sleep. But we have that Alavita, and I just want to point out the best way, if you wanted to get this, I love to buy this as a trio because it's like a giveaway. You get for $149.95 at wholesale, you get the day cream and the night cream, and that's the cost of those two creams. So they basically throw in 2 months of the patches, because this is repairing so much in the body from the inside out. But this inventor is so passionate about people not putting toxins in their body. And skincare, ladies, whoa, you look at the ingredients, bad, bad stuff. And our skin is very absorbable. And in 7 seconds, it's in our bloodstream. So these are clean, day cream, night cream. I have guys that use these too, and they love them. Perfect pH, so it doesn't have a greasy feeling. It's just beautiful. So this is just my inside tip. If you want to save money and you want to have clean skin with clear, clean products, get this trio. And you can even put that in your starter kit. Counts as 1.5 points. So just remember, timeline is unique for everyone, but the first few days, you're resetting about 4,000 genes. 1 to 3 minutes, we start to see physical, mental, and emotional changes starting to change. But it's 3 to 6 months is usually when most of us start to see the big stuff happening, because you need to bring back enough of those repair cells. So this is not a magic wand to fix everything overnight. And if that's what you were thinking you were signing up for, so sorry, that would be called, an aspirin that can give you a quick result, but it's not the right result, and it can be declining in your health long term. The longer you use these, the more you go into reversing of age. Just a reminder that we're here doing our regenerative patch casts every Monday and Tuesday night at 6 Pacific time, and our friend Marcy does hers on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. And I would love to entertain questions. If anybody has questions for me, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to stop the recording. So again, thanks for joining us tonight.